Making his debut here at court, we have Mr. David Battle. Let's hope he doesn't have to go into battle with me today. He's the managing director of NEX Exchange, and he tells me offline that he's a Man United fan. We know what we think of that. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Right, so your background, you're the managing director of NEX Exchange. What does that mean?
What
does a managing director do at NEX?
Well, I mainly responsible for market development and for business development. So that means trying to attract all sorts of partners and counterparties to join our market and get involved. I guess the main barometer that we look at is trying to attract new issuers, new companies coming onto the market, and so that's where I guess most of the focus is. But we also getting support from brokers, market makers, corporate advisory firms is all an integral part of trying to build the market.
Right. Now, obviously, NEX, okay, there's a number of sort of highlights I've got here. If you let's talk about why you would float on NEX, okay? Access to capital, cost effective, liquidity, valuations and controls. You can actually only have 10% in the public float on an NEX, okay, which would be good news, I guess. So how realistic is all of this, okay? Because one of the criticisms is the liquidity issue, okay? That's problematic, isn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, I think if you look at where we're coming from is to try and offer smaller companies a route into public markets, not at a completely early stage, but at a relatively early stage in their development. So typically a smaller company needs to raise funds to inject into its business for its future success. One route to go down is to look for public investment. So we, I guess, are the platform, well-regulated platform to deliver that. We're connected to a reasonable majority of stockbrokers. We're in all the right processes and systems for market makers to access and investors to access us. The reality is, if we bring on a good company that's interesting to investors, I don't see that liquidity is a challenge.
Right. Because what is it? 83 companies thereabouts.
About 88.
Right.
We've moved on.
So you've had a good year so far. Okay, so let's go back. All right. So basically, I'm a startup. Okay, but fintech. I saw a headline: a social impact company, or even somebody wanting to invent the next PLA. Or okay, what's the sort of split in terms of startups coming to you?
Well, if you look at us first of all, market sector-wise, we're sector agnostic. Naturally, there are some very sort of vogue segments, market sectors that attract people. So, for example, areas such as blockchain and crypto are very popular, and we have some companies involved in that space, and they proceed very well. So I think it's whether a company is a startup or it's just got to that stage where it's perhaps started with a small number of private investors, and it's now looking to maintain control of what it's doing, but to broaden its investor base as a means of funding the company, keeping control and independence, and really giving something to investors.
Right.
So that's really what we're open for. So.
And in terms of, obviously, people have got the choice of NEX and let's say AIM. Okay, are there significant advantages? Is it purely about cost? Would you say?
No, I don't think it is. Naturally, if you look at it today, naturally, we probably attract the smaller companies, but there's no necessarily logical reason for that going forward. I think probably more than cost, it's the fact that we're a very different style. We're a smaller business. We're very engaging. We're very helpful, and we're relatively sort of versatile. We have to work to the very similar sort of UK growth market standards as the AIM market would do. But we're there to try and attract and help companies find their way and ease their way into using public markets as a way forward. And I think that's probably the key differentiator. The fact that it's smaller companies and there are some smaller firms involved, does enable people to do that more cost effectively, but it's a byproduct.
Right. Okay, so somebody's watching this interview and thinking, I'm a startup, I've got a number of shareholders and I'm thinking about potentially floating. What sort of market value would you suggest as a minimum?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer because it partly depends on the ambition of the company in terms of its next stage of growth. Right. So if somebody is looking, where somebody is today isn't necessarily the determinant. It's what so if somebody we've got a proven management team, they're maybe in some new fintech area, but their ambition is very accelerated growth. they can raise probably reasonably significant sums from investors, and I think that's what the key is. It's what they need to move on to the next
so
level.
The growth story.
Yes, absolutely. So if you look at it, I mean, you're probably looking overall at six figures in terms of with all the bits involved in joining a public market of our style, and obviously we don't decide most of those numbers. All our corporate advisory and broker partners define those numbers, and the various law firms. And again, it depends on the complexity and style of the company, what level that is.
Right.
So very much, yeah. I mean, if you were a smaller company just looking to, broaden out your shareholding, raise a small amount of money, I'm sure there is a size at which you would think spending that kind of money just on being in the public framework is a tough one. But with a lot of ambitious young companies need somewhere to go.
Yeah. And finally, 2018, more of all the above?
Yes, definitely more of all the above. Yes, and we, I guess as mentioned before, a key determinant of our success is the number of companies coming on board. But I think above that, it's always a challenge as you're growing a business, but we're gradually garnering more support from the marketplace. We've got some really good firms, market making and broking that have supported us for quite a long while.
Yeah.
We're keen to continue to grow that, and we are progressively attracting more and more companies to sort of look and examine at the opportunity of coming to a public market. So yeah, I think it is more of the same, and hopefully you'll see some exciting new companies and see some great growth from the existing companies on NEX.
David, on that note, we've run out of time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.